It was a chilly October evening in upstate New York, the kind of night where the wind howled through the trees and the leaves rustled like they were trying to whisper a warning. I was 24, fresh out of college, and had just moved to a small town called Black Hollow for a job as a night security guard at an old hospital. The place was a relic from the early 1900s, all creaky floors and long, shadowy hallways, mostly abandoned now except for some dusty archives and occasional administrative work. It was my first night shift, and I had no idea what I was in for. I was stationed in a small guard booth by the main entrance, a glass box with a flickering fluorescent light that cast eerie shadows on the walls. It was just past midnight, and the silence was so thick I could hear my own heartbeat. My job was simple: patrol the building once an hour, make sure everything was locked, and keep out any trespassers. It didn't sound like much, but something about the place set my nerves on edge. Maybe it was the stories I'd heard from the other guards, rumors about the hospital being haunted, whispers of patients who died under strange circumstances and never really left. I laughed it off during the day, but alone in that booth, it didn't seem so funny. My first patrol went fine. I walked the empty corridors, my flashlight casting a weak beam across the cracked linoleum floors, my footsteps echoing in the stillness. But when I reached the old psychiatric ward on the third floor, something felt off. The air grew heavy, like I was being watched. I tried to shake it, chalking it up to first-night jitters, but as I passed a door labeled Treatment Room 3, I heard a faint sound, a soft tapping, like someone rapping their nails on glass. I stopped, listened. Nothing. Just silence. I told myself it was the wind or maybe old pipes settling in the walls. Back in the booth, I tried to focus on my book, but my mind kept drifting to that sound. By 2 a.m., it was time for my next round. The unease hit me harder this time. As I climbed the stairs to the third floor, the temperature dropped, not just cool, but bone-chilling, like I'd stepped into a freezer. I zipped up my jacket and kept going, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger, prickling the back of my neck. When I neared Treatment Room 3 again, I heard it, the tapping, louder now, deliberate, like someone was trying to get my attention. I froze, staring at the door. My flashlight beam danced across the frosted glass panel, but I couldn't see anything inside. My heart pounded, and every instinct screamed at me to walk away. But I'm not one to believe in ghosts, or at least, I didn't think I was. Taking a deep breath, I grabbed the doorknob, my hand trembling. It felt like the air itself was pushing back against me. I turned the handle and opened the door. The room was empty, just as I'd expected. An old examination table, a couple of cabinets, and a chair in the corner. But the atmosphere was wrong, like the room was holding its breath. I stepped inside, sweeping my flashlight across the walls. That's when I saw it. On the wall next to the examination table was a mark. It looked like a handprint, but not made of paint or dirt. It was as if the wall itself had been molded into the shape of a hand, fingers splayed, pressed deep into the plaster. I moved closer, my breath catching in my throat. As I stood right in front of it, I heard a sound behind me, a low, guttural whisper, like someone trying to speak through a throat full of gravel. I spun around, flashlight shaking in my hand, but there was nothing there. Just the empty room, the chair, the table. My heart was racing now, and I could feel sweat beading on my forehead despite the cold. I backed toward the door, not taking my eyes off the room, and that's when I noticed the chair. It was facing me now, perfectly aligned, like someone had moved it while my back was turned. I hadn't heard a thing. No scrape, no sound. Just silence. I bolted out of the room, slamming the door behind me, and didn't stop until I was back in the guard booth. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my coffee mug. I told myself it was just my imagination, that old buildings make you see things, hear things. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. I checked the security cameras, hoping they'd show nothing, but the feed from the third floor was just static, gray and white fuzz, like something was interfering with the signal. By 3 a.m., I was dreading the next patrol, but I couldn't just sit there. If I skipped it, I'd lose the job, and I needed the money. So I grabbed my flashlight and forced myself back up those stairs. This time, I avoided treatment room 3, sticking to the other corridors, but the whole third floor felt alive in a way I can't explain. Shadows seemed to shift just outside my flashlight's beam, and every so often, I'd hear a faint shuffle, like footsteps trailing behind me. I kept turning around, but there was never anyone there. When I got back to the booth, I was ready to call it quits, job be damned. But before I could grab my stuff and leave, the phone in the booth rang. It was one of those old rotary phones, dusty and unused, and I hadn't even seen it ring before. I picked it up, my hand shaking, and said, "Hello?" There was a long pause, just static crackling on the line, and then a voice, low, distorted, like it was coming from underwater. "You shouldn't be here," it said. Then the line went dead. I dropped the phone and backed away, my eyes darting to the security monitors. The static on the third-floor feed was gone now, and I could see the hallway outside treatment room 3. The door was open. I hadn't left it open. I was sure of it. And in the doorway, just for a split second, I saw something, a figure tall and thin, its head tilted at an unnatural angle, standing perfectly still. Then the feed cut back to static. I didn't do another patrol that night. I locked the booth door, turned on every light I could find, and sat there until dawn, my flashlight clutched like a lifeline. When the morning shift arrived, I didn't say a word about what happened. I just grabbed my stuff and left. I quit the job that same day, never went back, and moved out of Black Hollow a month later. But the thing is, it didn't end there. Even now, years later, I still hear that tapping sometimes, late at night when I'm alone. It's faint, like nails on glass, and it always comes from just outside my bedroom door. I've checked over and over, but there's never anything there. And sometimes when I close my eyes, I see that handprint on the wall, pressed into the plaster like it's reaching out for me. I don't know what was in that hospital, and I don't want to know. All I know is that it saw me, and I don't think it's done with me yet.